Welcome to another edition of Be the Change Georgia, where we amplify the voices of the inspiring business leaders surrounding the B Corp and social impact movements across the Southeast to help you learn how to build your legacy at the intersection of people, planet, purpose, and profit. Today, there are more than 8,000 B Corps in over 80 countries and 180 different industries, unified by one common goal: transforming the global economy to benefit all people, communities, and the planet. If you want to learn how to plug into our purpose-driven business community alongside the inspiring leaders we feature on this show, check us out at belocalgeorgia.com or on Instagram or Facebook at belocalgeorgia, and we'll hope to meet you at our next event. Today's guest is Talibah Bayles, a passionate advocate for minority small businesses, national speaker, and the founder of TMB Tax Financial Services. Drawing on her family's entrepreneurial legacy and her own experiences, Talibah empowers minority entrepreneurs with the tools and strategies that they need to succeed. In this episode, Talibah shares her journey from growing up in a family of entrepreneurs to becoming a leader in financial literacy and small business advocacy. We dive into the principle of strategy over emotion in business decision-making, the importance of building trust and relationships, and the balance between passion and profit in building a sustainable business. We explore practical strategies for eliminating uncertainty in business, understanding cash flow, and creating lasting impact in underserved communities. Stay tuned for an inspiring and actionable conversation. Welcome, Talibah Bayles. Finally get you on the podcast. How are you this morning?
Oh my goodness. I am just fine, Nathan. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's been fun watching your journey, like getting certified, getting into like fully involved in the B Corp community, and also like not just in Alabama, what we're growing in the Southeast, but across the country too. So it's been I feel like a proud parent or a
Yeah,
teacher or something watching you go off into the world. And
I'm telling you. Yeah, it has definitely been an exciting journey. I don't know what we would have done without you guys. So yes, absolutely. I really excited as to where we are now.
You've been a strong advocate and for small businesses in general and good business and doing business the right way. So I'm excited to finally get you on, unpack some of your journey, your story, share it with our listeners, and as we expand our Be the Change Georgia podcast outside of the Georgia footprint again. But as we also, for those that were at Build Southeast know, growing this thing in the South together in abundance is very important to all of us. So yeah, we'll
Absolutely.
get
Absolutely. Let's
rolling.
do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So you do have a fascinating journey from Birmingham, Alabama. You went to Fisk, and like you, this journey into entrepreneurship and also a journey into becoming an advocate for minority small businesses,
hmm
both in Alabama, but across the nation. Why is advocating for minority small businesses so important to you and to your work with TMB Tax and Financial Services?
Well, I think it's one word, and that's access. I think in understanding the journey of a small business owner, generally speaking, we know that a lot of us feel as though this journey is one where most of the time we feel like we are on this whole island by ourselves, right? We've all kind of seen that meme on social media or have heard that example being used when it comes to, hey, describe your entrepreneurial journey. I feel like I'm on an island by myself. But when you put that into the context of where minority women owned businesses fall into play, it's almost like a much, much smaller island and more water, in the sense of you have to take into consideration some of the cultural barriers that may exist on small business financial literacy. And that is, are conversations being had around the dinner table in these households that help those business owners understand the importance of the things that I do with business owners, which is taxes, which is, hey, do you have all those receipts that you just talked about? You're going to be scanning over the holidays. And I would like for our audience to try to look at this discussion through that scope of, hey, we know it's, and I'll date myself. I am definitely 45. And so, that whole traditional concept of dinner and family around the dinner table was very much one that I had the pleasure of growing up, whether it be my immediate household or my grandparents. And so when you think of the wealth of information that happens when you sit down, with your family and you talk about the day and you talk about different things, that piece has withered away. And so when it comes to access to those types of knowledge transfers, that it's different when you take into consideration the business owner and what community they come from. And so think of it that way as to why this is important.
Well, and you're touching on it too. It's like if you don't have access in your family at that dinner table to anybody who has any sort of entrepreneurial skills. I was hanging out with my sister this weekend and we were laughing about the ability to, like, what did you learn from, we were talking about the career advice we used to get from our parents, which was like, you just print out like 20 resumes, you go
Mm-hmm.
knock on doors, and you take any job to get your
Mm-hmm.
foot in the door. If it means cleaning toilets, you clean toilets. And you're like, and they'll still give me that advice. And you're like, nobody uses. If you show up at somebody's office now with a resume, they're gonna look at you
Yes.
like, oh, there's a web
Yes.
portal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm also old, so I also know that that used to be a thing that we did. But if you don't have access to that entrepreneurial like family mindset, it's really hard. Who do you get that information from? And like taxes and like even people will tell you stuff where you're like, oh, you can put some, put this percentage of your your receivables into a tax account and earn interest on it all year, and you'll make like another 1,000 for your money just sitting there, and you have your taxes taken care of, and you're like, in the first year, most business owners were just like, oh, there's a tax
Yeah.
bill. What are we going to do here? So you were actually lucky enough though that you had, was it your father and your grandfather? Like you come from a family of entrepreneurs. So unpack that a little bit and some of the stories you learned, some of the lessons you learned, but what it was like sitting around the dinner table with a family of entrepreneurs, also able to kind of like give young Talibah some insights into what business ownership was going to look like.
Yeah, you're right. So my grandfather here in Birmingham in the 50s and 60s had a concrete business. And a lot of people are like amazed at that because we all know, if you're from the South, the barriers that were in existence during those times. And so my grandfather had a concrete business when Black business probably wasn't a thing too much, right? And he through that business built the family home that still we gather on holidays to have dinner and celebrate family. That home is still in existence. And my dad, it was 11 of them. So not only was he a small business owner, but he also had 11 kids. And so growing up and then seeing my dad turn around and a couple of his brothers turn around and do the same thing, and that is say, I am going to provide for my family and serve my community as a business owner, has really is what keep me going every day. Because what I pulled from it was that this thing is possible. It's possible for you to say what it is you want to be passionate about and use that thing to pay your bills and to support your family. And so they made it possible for me, and I know that it is a thing you could do. What I knew also was that it's not easy. I also saw, where there's the ebbs and flows. There's the things that sometimes you get to do some stuff and sometimes you don't. And so even now, I translate that to my children when it comes to clearing invoices versus getting a direct deposit every 2 weeks, and helping them understand the difference in that. And so, yeah, we had conversations, but I'll tell you, even growing up as a legacy of small business owners, finances, we didn't talk about going and getting loans from a bank. You know what I'm saying? Like my grandmother was like the accountant for my grandfather, and equally my mom was the accountant for my dad's small business. And nobody taught them, how to do that stuff, especially my grandmother. And so I would say that, we learned how to bootstrap the hell out of business. I learned how to, as we say, keep all 10 toes down every day and be prepared for you funding your business. And so I wanted to change that. I think with my generation, and really using some of the principles from my mom, actually getting the educational discipline of being an accountant. I wanted to take up the flagpole of saying, no, wait a minute, these loans are here for us too. How do we make sure that we're able to access the money at these banks and leverage the fact that money is in our account, like we're bankable. And so that's where it was like, how can I make this journey my own? And so to me, my journey is blending that real world experience on seeing how important small business is, but then also curating it to say, and we deserve, a place at this table, because we surely are business owners that are bankable. And so, let's increase the conversation on what it means to have accurate books, what it means to be able to go into banks and apply for loans. And that's really what I feel I've done with my generation and my take on small business.
It's funny that you say all that. It's almost like, I'm asking a question like you're a legacy entrepreneur. In reality, you're more of a legacy accountant.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I mean, most entrepreneurs, and I think the power of what you bring, most of us are literally figuring it. I mean, I got lucky enough that my last job did financial operations for a startup,
Hmm.
so I understood the importance of getting invoices out immediately,
Hmm.
because you've got a 30-day run until you're going to get paid. Like all those little things of like we have to make payroll, we need cash flow was king. But you got to learn those lessons from mom and grandma. That's pretty cool.
Yep. Definitely. Definitely. I have to, when you say those words, it's like, sometimes you have to pop your own self out of your box and realize, hey, I'm super blessed. And so yes, I definitely have had 100% of a hell of a blueprint, for sure. And I realize that not all of us have that blueprint, and that's why it's important that that I do everything I can to share the information that I have.
And one of the other things you always talk about that is something I wrote down. I don't even know the first time you told me was the importance of strategy over emotion.
Mm,
And I think that CPA upbringing like kind of gives you that, like it's strategy over emotion, like your gut. Like I still manage my emotion a lot of the times where
yeah.
I'm like, no, it totally makes sense. We're gonna do this. It's my gut tells me. But talk a little bit about your belief in like strategy over emotion when making impactful decisions. And when did you learn to prioritize strategy in your career, and how do you balance the strategy to make a living with the desire to help others and do meaningful work? Because we all know that dying a broke social impact martyr is a reality for a lot of us that are trying to like read a word. But you and I we're out here trying to redefine systems, and
Hmm.
and everything you just said touched on the intersectionality of so much of like when we look at statistics of why there's so few Black entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, and the success rate and where the venture capital goes. You start to see the intersectionalities of examples of entrepreneurs in your life, knowledge about where the money is, knowledge about the access to those networks where the money is. So like, but yeah, let's get into the strategy over emotion piece, but then into all of that too, because I think it's an important thing that people need to learn too, is you have to have that strategy and it's not just having the best product, the best this, you have to have some strategy behind it as well.
Yeah, I think strategy over emotion is just one of those guided principles, in personally, as well as just in this thing called business. And again, I believe that I saw great examples of strategy over emotion, growing up, and certainly my parents. before me. Both of my parents are 73. And so that's rooted in where there is an injustice somewhere, and you have to decide how are you going to have some progress towards it not being an injustice anymore. And so when it comes to this thing called access, there are things that we don't like, and those things are going to be there uh, no matter what. And so the real question becomes, what are you going to do to ensure that you are working towards that mission that you've identified is something you're going to try to accomplish? And whether it be through the discipline of seeing uh, progress being made growing up, or through numbers, or through my own actual example, and where I got most of my discipline on top of growing up was working for the Department of Justice. I worked for the federal government for 15 years prior to deciding to return to my small business roots. And I worked for Department of Justice, and particularly the FBI and national security. And so I became a student of discipline and of strategy. And so I added another set of flavors to understanding that when it comes to identifying an overall mission of whatever it is you've decided, you can go fast emotionally and fail, or you can be strategic and work towards that mission in a collaborative effort and have a lot more success. And so usually when it's something that sparks emotion, I just find myself taking a moment and realizing that there is a pathway towards this thing that we're working towards that doesn't involve me being over emotional about it. And in each case that I've been able to master that, we've had a better outcome. And so, like I said, whether it just be knowing that you can hit the panic button a million times all you want to, but after you've hit that panic button, it's up to you to decide on how you're going to come up with a solution that has caused you to panic. And so I think it's important to say that in being strategic, it doesn't mean that you're delusional or oblivious to whatever that obstacle is, because you do have to absolutely say, this thing is real and it caused me to hit the panic button. Right. But then it's your reaction to it. It's how you're prepared to it. From a numbers perspective, that thing that caused you to hit the panic button, just like we talk about all the time, could be, well, damn, I'm waiting on somebody to pay this invoice and I've been waiting for a while, and I'm sitting here and my account is dwindling, and my accounts receivable is unfortunately not being paid. And so that's a real thing. You know what I mean? And that can absolutely make you hit the panic button, because that I've performed a service and I'm waiting on these people to pay me. I'm looking at my account. I have payroll. I have my own business bills as well as personal. So you hit the panic button. However, just as we've talked about before, after you've hit the panic button, especially when you're a small business owner where you have to clear an invoice, it's as they say, no one's coming to help. Now you build upon how can you make sure you're not there anymore. So that could be something as to if you have someone on your team that can, follow up on outstanding invoices, or we do a cash flow exercise with business owners where, we are actually scheduling bills to be due when invoices are due. There's a lot of little small things that we don't think about, when we're setting things up, that can kind of make that, a little less hit the panic button as a response from you. And that I think we've just kind of learned over the years in working with business owners. And again, knowing that life is going to life, but at the end of the day, it's how you react to it that is your responsibility.
Yeah. And I think even for like social impact businesses and mission driven businesses, like there's even more so the strategy over emotion, because the emotion is telling you that you're doing the right thing and to do it. But there's that old like no margin, no mission, like no profit, no purpose of like how do you do these things? And like, I think when we're all on that journey of, I mean, I know you've done, we'll just call it free stuff.
Yeah.
Like even that strategy over emotion of like what is the desired outcome from said free stuff to turn into paid stuff, and at what point do you turn some of the free stuff off of like learning to say no, the strategy of no.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's a part of the strategy over emotion. And I'll be transparent and vulnerable. For the longest, perhaps even up to last year, that's where I was the weakest in the strategy over emotion, because the emotional side of me is, oh my gosh, like how can I do all of these events where I'm talking to business owners about these things that I know we can help them on, and oh, it doesn't matter that I may not be getting paid for said event or webinar. I want to do it all. Like I want to do it all. And I think in the social impact and doing business for good, like that's just a common thing that you're in that room with that t-shirt for that thing. But I had to practice on my own business model to say that, okay, Talibah, so I think you've proven to the world that you're passionate about this thing. Okay, you've done enough. You're there. I think people, you've done all you can when it comes to proving that you are passionate about these things and that you are an advocate for these things. Now, let's make sure that that is a business model. And that's why we gravitated to becoming a B Corp. That's why I signed up for, that wonderful opportunity to do the cohort with you, because I was like, well, I have the passion, I have the knowledge, but my kids got to eat too. So if I'm working with business owners on how to improve their cash flow, if I'm working with business owners on how they can be bankable to qualify for funding, then I must do that for myself. And those platforms and organizations that are inviting me and want me to TMB to be a part of the table, it's my responsibility to let them know and remind them that this is also how I pay my bills and Catholic school tuition for my daughters. And so then I became better at a steward over those things. I still very much do like free things, but like you and I talk about all the time, like, and so here's how we're doing that. Hey, if I'm going to do a free webinar with you, let's at least put it into place where you're giving me the reservation emails of the business owners, or you're allowing me to provide a link for this, that, and the other. All like, again, you would think they're really huge things you have to do, but they're very much small things. And that's using the systems. So now if I'm doing something, that's a part of the conversation. It's like, yeah, sure, I'll absolutely do this recording for you for free, but I would love to have the RSVPs. Can I have the emails? And so when you ask that, usually, it's no problem, because at this point, you've already proven to that organization. That's why they're asking you to participate. And they know that they, may not be able to afford that at market invoice. So they're going to do everything that they can to ensure that you're participating. And that has really worked. Like I've shared some of the organizations that I've done 100% free stuff for, has led to paid speaking events, all the way up to being included on a federal grant that, that is going to be a 5-year grant, and probably one of our largest subcontracts that I've had, all leading from a free event. So it's definitely doable. You just got to kind of put it into your mind that it's okay. It's okay for me to be able to say I'm doing business for good and I'm having social impact. But guess what? I am a business also, and people respect that when you say that, and then they see the things that you're doing. It's really not a hard conversation. You just gotta, put some things into words.
Yeah. And I think it's our obligation too to help. Like I have a friend who's going to do some consulting. I mean, basically come in and guest speak for a cohort. But I'm like, if I'm building this out, and we've started budgeting things like that, and you and I have talked about these things collaborative of like, how do we include that in the budget?
Mm-hmm.
So, especially if you're getting paid for it and you're asking somebody to come in and not get paid to make your
Right.
thing better, if you're charging a mission, you better be paying everybody involved.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but this person was shocked, was like, "Oh, thank you. That means a lot." But I don't know if it was timidity or shyness or whatever, was kind of afraid to like, or just didn't ask, or that hasn't been built into their MO yet. But also like one of the things that you're hitting on is, and it's such a complicated topic because there is like strategy over emotion, but there is a certain gut sense of like, because we also have talked, you and I, a lot about like building relationships,
Mm-hmm.
building trust, and like that. I always say to people, like, I find it hard to say no because saying yes has gotten me into a lot of rooms that if I hadn't done that free thing, there wasn't that grant. If
Yeah.
I hadn't done that free thing, oh, they saw me speak and then Googled B Corp guy, red jacket. Next thing you know, I'm doing a keynote.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, I'm glad I did the free thing.
Yeah.
How do you balance that? And also I'd just love for you to touch on some of the the importance of like, because trust, relationships, some of these things. I think we had Adam Marks on recently. He's like a networking guru, and we joke all the time about how bad people are at it. As I sit here and play with business cards from a conference I was at last week,
Yeah.
like, what do you do with those business
Yeah.
cards? So talk a little bit about that building relationships, building trust, and how you kind of like, again, like the strategy and the emotion of what you'll say yes to, and what you kind of go, I'm good.
So I do want to add something to what you were saying that I think, I had to learn to ask for. And I don't know that a lot of people know these things exist. So, kind of going back to the whole, oh, let's get up your resume, like 15 copies of your resume and then go walk around to these stores. There are some core things that seem old school that actually hold a lot of weight. And that's what we call like an in-kind letter, or even like a letter of recommendation. And so I've also kind of incorporated that ask, like where depending upon the organization, if the organization is one that, again, is in direct alignment with what you're doing, a letter of recommendation or a letter acknowledging that you've participated in said event really is priceless in comparison to this $500 invoice you may send, because you could use that letter of support is another way that you may have heard, but you could use that letter like indefinitely, whether it be you can repurpose it into a client testimonial that you post somewhere. But for me, because I obviously am a B Corp and I also have a nonprofit, I'm always leveraging relationships either for grants or other funding opportunities. And those funders and investors want to see documentation of your relationships. So for me to be able to have 5 letters, and I keep them current, you know what I mean, within at least a year. So 5 letters that show where I've gotten a letter of support or I've gotten an acknowledgement for participating in an event may even have more value than the RSVP list. You know what I'm saying? So that's something I want to put out there for our listeners that are in this space and kind of struggling with, well, they can't pay me, but I really align with this organization. And that's for free. You would think like that process is, they may have to go up subsequent marketing channels or whatever their approval process is, but that's something that has currency that is far more priceless, in my opinion, sometimes when it comes to an invoice. So I want to put that out there. And that does lead into me answering the question of building relationships. Like when folks see that, hey, so, for me, I have a letter from Small Business Majority. I'm on the board of Small Business Majority. Small Business Majority's relationship started from free, from doing a lot of free stuff. And it has subsequently led to a board position, letter of support. And so when you have a relationship with an organization that you support and that supports you because your mission align, that letter is in black and white that distinguishes the trust, that distinguishes the relationship. And I'll tell you, in a time of uncertainty, whether that be uncertainty in your business, uncertainty in politics, uncertainty in life in general, what I found is most people are really looking for something solid, something like real, that they're like, okay, this person is making me feel like I'm on some cement and not sand. And so if you're working in the space of serving people, they need to know that you're a solid bet. You know what I'm saying? Like that you are here because you do what you say, and it's measured. And that's another reason why we decided to become a B Corp as well, because the 3-year certification is like, I can sit here and tell you all day that we've gotten almost $9 million in funding for our clients. B Lab is like, oh, for real, show me. Where's that at? You know what I'm saying? And so, because you and Jen helped us across that finish line. It's like, okay, so if I'm saying something, if you see me posting it, I know in the back of my mind and on my different OneDrive box, Google, and all the other places that my stuff is, I better be able to show that I'm actually doing that, because this is the stuff that people want to see. Like, oh, okay, well, she's certified, so and it's public, so let's go in here and see, so that has gone a long way for me, in being consistent in this thing of being a business owner that serves business owners when it comes to their money, is they need to be able to absolutely trust you, and consistency and documentation, and going through those traditional things like letters and certification, that's what's going to work. You know what I'm saying? Like that is what's going to be in a room that you're not even physically in. Your reputation leads ahead of you physically being present. That's when I'm on to something and I want to keep doing it. And I think the other part that, believe it or not, I had to grow into, and that I think that is very important when you're in business to serve others, that you got to also remember your value. You've got to know your value. When you enter into that room, that table, that Zoom call, you got to know your value, and you got to exude, I know what I bring to the table, and I'm using this to serve you.
Mm-hmm.
So, see, if you're new at it, you're coming in, I'm trying to serve everybody, and people know that, and they will totally take advantage of you. However, if you come in saying, I know what my value is, and I'm serving I hope y'all picking up on what I'm saying. Like, that is where you can truly make sure that you're serving in the core mission of your business and being able to pay your bills at the same time. I mean, seriously.
And this is the 60th consecutive episode where imposter syndrome's been brought
Oh
up.
my goodness. Yeah.
But it's true. I mean, but also I think it's important for newer entrepreneurs to understand that, like, that is a thing. Jay and I talked about it when I had Jay Bailey on. Like, it never really goes. There's always those moments, and even the most established entrepreneurs have confided in me and been like, oh yeah. I mean, I had that with Jay. I'm sitting next to him, interviewing him at the Russell Center. I'm like, why is this guy sitting next to me?
Yeah.
Like, it never goes away.
It doesn't.
I know
It
I'm good at what I
doesn't.
do. I know I'm authentic. I know I bring value, but like, this person sitting right here, wow.
Yeah.
Why am I here right now? So yeah, I think that was, I'm glad you touched on that, because you didn't necessarily say it, but it was definitely of knowing your value, that it takes a while to be reassured. But I also think it's okay to tell people that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, just develop your confidence and start to realize, and then surround yourself with people who will give you constructive feedback, but are also going to be authentically truthful with you.
Yeah. And because when
Absolutely.
you know your value, that's when you do learn to say no. You know what I'm saying? Because now is this something that is going to help facilitate the things that I've said my business is going to stand for or do. Or like, do I need to force myself into accepting 2 engagements a month, like, whatever that is. But I think the journey of that self evaluation and it being sort of like a, monthly thing, quarterly thing, whatever it is you need to do, where you're tapping into yourself and you're like, hey, I'm working hard at this thing. And, and I know that there has been progress. So I know my value, and that value is to serve X in this space. And I think it can go a long way. But you're right. I mean, it's something you have to lock in on. You don't just get it and then you're like, and I am good. Like, it'll take some blows, it'll take some blows, but that's where circles, that's where involving yourself into communities, like you just said, that will remind you, it's like, hey, friends that will not try to stand in front of you, but they want to stand alongside of you and hold your hand. And then we raise those hands together. Like, that's what's important. Once you've done that, I know my value. Now you got to protect that value and surround yourself with people who want to add to your value because you add to them. And so
Yeah.
once you do that, then like that's where the real magic starts happening.
And they'll bring you into the room and get you paid too. That's the
Yeah.
other important thing about it, too. Like,
Yes.
I mean, yeah, figure out who those people are. One last thing, you touched on that last answer. You talked a little bit about whatever anxiety of whatever uncertainty right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
This is November 25th. We're recording this. So,
Yeah.
I think everybody knows what we're talking about. I mean, there's always anxiety in business, but I think there's a lot of us in spaces like we were talking before earlier, like things with alternative energy sources, solar. There's a lot of industries right now dealing with a lot of anxiety of what's coming, what money won't be coming anymore. One of the things you mentioned when we had our planning call was eliminating the gray area in the business. So I want you to kind of unpack that for the listeners who might be sitting out there going like, anything from, all the initials,
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
one time you work with all those letters,
Right.
with everything happening right now, how do you focus in on that gray area to kind of eliminate that and I mean, not necessarily put the anxiety aside, but
Mhm.
continue to work and continue to not let this be the determining factor that your business goes out of business?
Yeah, I mean, again, recognizing the reality of why everyone is, kind of like, I've had friends that actually, have jobs directly linked to the most recent events where they know you're not going to have a job come January. So we definitely can't be delusional about the fact that there will be change. There will be, some things that may go away, and there will be some loss. However, what I speak from, and call it weaving in that strategy versus emotion, weaving in the 15 plus years of experience that I have working in DC. Although there is going to be some uncertainty, the eliminating the gray area that you and I talk about is, once again, now we have that eagle's eye view. We know, like, picture this tornado going on around you, right? Identify where your safe room is, your bunker, your shelter, and let's focus on you for the moment. And so, for me, as a tax and accounting firm that works with business owners, what I want you to focus on right now is getting your house in order. Do not Let's get the house in order before we realize that there's a tornado circling around that may or may not hit your house. We don't know that. But what we do know is that there has to be a bunker in place. We have to have our supplies in there. So, from a numbers perspective, if you are not keeping track of your numbers, then you need to start, whether that be QuickBooks, whether that be Found, whatever accounting system that is out there for you. You need to go ahead and do that. And why am I saying that? I'm saying that because only you know your numbers, and your numbers, and those folks who come to my stuff all the time, you probably can feel in what I'm about to say. Whether it's 1 comma 2 or 3, They're your numbers, and they will give you your insights for what you need to do. When COVID arrived, that was probably the most uncertain, at least for my generation, the uncertainty, and folks were dying. It was a lot of going on, businesses shuttering. And what I saw was that businesses weren't prepared, because we didn't know what cash flow was. Like, we weren't looking at our numbers and say, hey, well, how much, if things go to hell today, where am I going to find myself when it comes to my bank account? And then if you don't like what your bank account has in it, now let's sit down and do some strategies to make sure that you have some action plans going on. You can go to trainings, you can read these books, you can go to Google University and all these other things, but until you roll up your sleeves and take accountability for your numbers and know what they are, know the relationship of what your business decisions are with your numbers, know the relationship of what your tax returns are with your sustainability and viability, having your documents in place to where if you decide that you do want to attract investors, or you do want to walk into a bank, to see where you are with the loan, that you have done that work. Because in this environment, nothing's going to be handed to you. Those things are under attack. So if you know that whole, equity thing and all of that other stuff is like, oh, well, we don't. So if it's not going to be there, what is it that we know we can do? We can make sure that we have done the work on ourselves, because there are always going to be laws in place to protect. If you walk into this bank and you have all these things that are on the federal checklist for what you need to have to apply, then unless they're ready for somebody's lawsuit and other things of that nature, those federal laws do protect you. Don't, so I hope that you are understanding what I'm saying, is that there is uncertainty, but there will also be opportunity for those folks who have their crap together. And like, is that fair? No. But you remember, I operate on strategy over emotion. That's the way it's going to be. So, therefore, align yourself with someone to help you understand the work that you know you're going to have to put in for your business. Do those things. Take advantage of all the opportunity that is out here. There's so many business accelerators, so many cohorts. There's billions of dollars for organizations just like yours, but they're not going to hand it to you. And quite frankly, that's been the case right now. So it's about to be the case in 2025. So I just say worry about your bunker, your shelter, all this other stuff, and then realize that we don't know where the tornadoes. We don't know where it's going to hit. We just don't know that. And if you worry yourself on trying to figure out, you're losing time on your own numbers. Like, focus on what you can control, and that's how you react to it. And from a business sense, how you prepare your business using the tools that are right out here for you, that are begging for you. It's organizations that are looking to work with business owners, and just, and then do the work. And it's not going to be easy, but you're a business owner. You chose to be a business owner. Get that grit, fortify that grit, and make it count. Because there will absolutely be opportunity as well. I don't want to be doom and gloom, and I've been around long enough. I've worked for Republicans and Democrats. When you're in advocacy, you better know that there's two sides of the aisle, and so many people that you have to talk to. And so if you're not able to do that, then you should align yourself with someone who is able to understand that strategy over emotion is what's going to move this world further, and not anything else. And so for longevity, work on you, align yourself with organizations and individuals who will share access with you, and let's go. That's what I would say.
Yo, I got no follow up. That's just the mic dropper. Talia, that was awesome. I love it. I mean, you just summarized the whole thing too. Just control what you can control, and focus on your strategy, and whatever comes next, control the parts of it that you can control, and we'll see where that tornado hits.
Exactly. Exactly.
So awesome, Talibah. Well, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. As I say on a lot of these, it's like having a conversation with a friend, except we're going to release this one to the world. So
That's right.
I'm glad we finally made this happen, and look forward to all the collaborations in 2025 and beyond with you. And thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you.
Well, that wraps up another edition of Be the Change Georgia. We're grateful, as always, for the opportunity to serve you with this content and grow this incredible community of purpose-driven B Corp leaders. If you haven't already, we would be grateful for you to rate this show wherever you get your podcasts by simply tapping the number of stars you think it deserves and sharing it with a friend. This helps us get the word out and continue to use our collective influence as a force for good. This podcast wouldn't be possible without the help from our production team at Chat with Leaders Media. Learn how you can launch your own podcast to grow your business at chatwithleaders.com. Thanks again for listening, and now go be a leader worth following.